Ready. Action.
Let's do it. This is how we do it. All right. This is how we do it. Welcome back. Today's Tuesday Talk, episode 19, is called Mental Health, Schmental Health. Mainly geared at just talking through some of these stigmas around mental health and my personal journey through mental health. And of course, we'll talk on flipping the script, but there is such a weighted stigma around all things mental health. And like, even when you say that word, it's kind of like when we talked about shame and how when you just say the word shame, like people just shame, that almost when you say mental health, it's like, do we need to keep talking? Like if somebody says I struggle with mental health, like do I keep talking to you? Like, do I address the pink elephant in the room? Do I pretend it's not there? When Belle got out of the mental institution, there was a lot of, do I go up and hug her? Do I like say something? Like, am I gonna make it worse? Like, there's so much stigma around mental health that I was like, nope, we're talking about this. This is gonna be an episode we've got to address. So, first things first, what is the definition of mental health? Okay, Psychology Today definition. A person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being. Okay, that's simple enough, right? The sad part is it says condition. All right. And I think because of that takes us into what a lot of where the stigmas come from. Okay. So I asked a couple of people who I know struggle with mental health, what are some of the things that you have seen have been assumptions people have against you when they find out that you, quote, struggle with mental health or have mental health issues. Okay. Here's what I got. Mental health people are dangerous. Okay. That's fair. Like, depending on the gamut of what you struggle with or what your condition is, I can see how that can be a stigma that's wrapped around mental health. Also, we have a lot of, from decades ago that a lot of times people, they would just get locked in institutions, or they would get, a lobotomy or, whatever, electroshock therapy, just because a lot of times they didn't know how to deal with some of these things. Like, a lot of times what's going on inside are just things we can't articulate, especially for kids and teenagers and young adults. We've talked about that prefrontal cortex lobe that has not fully developed. Like, a lot of times we just can't articulate what's going on inside. A lot of us that struggle with anxiety, before we can identify that it's anxiety, we just know something is crazy going on inside and making me feel weird. That's all I know. And so there's a lot of acting out because of it. There's a lot of disorders that come along that we see on TV or we see happen in the news or whatever, people that just whatever. And so that stigma, I get why it's there, but it's not true. Not everybody who has mental health issues or struggles with anything mental health related are automatically dangerous to themselves, to others, to whatever. That can't be an auto assumption, which I think sometimes is what makes us all shirk away. Like, ooh, they're struggling with something. Like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to set them off. I don't want to whatever. Okay. A lot of times people who are mentally aware of their health in that space are doing things and tracking with it. Now, a lot of people aren't. I know tons of people who just refuse to admit that they need help. They need to see a therapist. They need to get some meds. They need to whatever. I saw something on, I think it was Facebook the other day. I think my girlfriend brought it up, where it said, sometimes my serotonin comes in a bottle. That's okay. Mental health does not affect kids and teens. So I've heard a lot of that where it's just, they're just acting out. They're just allowed to do all things that we were never allowed to do. They don't really struggle. They don't need to be on meds. They don't need blah, blah, blah. Back that train up. Let's go back to my suicide episode talking about a lot of the things that teens face today. You and I never had to face. Okay? throw in a pandemic, and we just have a toxic situation. Okay. So that stigma, I just don't understand why this is an adult thing, and adults can handle it. No, they can't. We got to have help too as adults. We need to see therapists. We might need to be on meds. It's okay. It is absolutely okay. But guess what? Kids and teenagers deal with this constantly as well. So that is not true. I can just snap out of it. Now, full disclosure, I really struggled with this, with my ex-husband, with my daughter, both prior to going into the hospital and coming out of the hospital, with my best friend who she has mental health in her family that she's got to deal with. I really struggled with, I don't think I ever said just get over it, but I think a lot of times my actions early on, even though I had been in therapy for, 15 years, myself, I think I'm like, oh my God, can't you just get over that? In my brain, why can't you just snap out of this, get over this, and let's just be fine? Because I don't struggle in that space. Do I have moments of sadness? Absolutely. Do I have days where I'm like, everybody just needs to leave me alone? Absolutely. But that stuff doesn't grip me and become my reality. And so, full disclosure, I had to relearn that concept. They can't just snap out of it. You can't snap out of it. In our home, we have we know what some triggers are. We know what red flags look like. We know how to help each other navigate those waters of let me lean in and ask you a couple of questions, or just watch your actions to see kind of where we're going with this. But that took some years of learning together. Let's see. Here's another one that was brought up to me and made my blood boil. And it was that this is just, you're not trusting God enough. Or kind of in the same vein, but a little bit on the other side of it is, it's not really depression. It's that you're choosing some sin. You're really struggling with some sin in your life. I have had preachers stand at a pulpit and say, you don't need to be on meds. You need to get your life right with the Lord. Excuse me? That is wrong. 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 Absolutely 1,000% wrong. Your mental health issues, your mental health situation that you're in. Yeah, sometimes I can be in a bad place mentally because I made some unwise decisions and now I'm facing the consequences. I'm not negating that at all. Religion or not involved. Sometimes it's my consequences. But my mental health space that I may be facing is a real thing. It is not because I'm not trusting God enough to heal it. It is not because I'm living a life of sin and therefore I'm in this state. It is not because I don't need meds, okay? And I'm not saying let's medicate the whole world. Let's get together. Let's figure this out with our therapist, with our doctors. Let's really figure out what's going on. This is a big one. This is a big one. That it's not a disease. It's a choice. And you just don't have enough willpower. What? Have you ever studied anything about the brain? I am by no means a psychologist. I am by no means a doctor of any kind, okay? But I can look at enough to know how this amazing brain we have works, okay? And I don't know anybody who struggles and walks a mental health road that's like, man, I love this. I love, this life I'm walking. I'm going to keep on walking it. I have not met a one. Okay. So that one's got to go. And then that therapy is a waste of time and money. Therapy is never a waste of time or money. I'm a firm believer that everybody needs to be in therapy, whether you struggle with anything mental health or not. Therapy is not a waste of time or money. So even for myself, like I said, I've been in therapy for going on 15 years, on and off at different phases. You know, we're every week, or every couple of weeks, once a month. Now, you know, I'm at a place where it's only if I need some, you know, emergent therapy. Because I think it ebbs and flows depending on the situations going on in life at the time. My kids have been in therapy. Let me see. My son started when he was 10. I started him for ADHD and behavioral modification. And so he's now been in therapy for 5 years. My daughter's been in therapy for close to that. And they look forward to it. It's like, woohoo, it's therapy day. Like, they're so excited because there's something so, for lack of a better term, therapeutic about it. So the stigma around just going to therapy, feel like I'm admitting defeat. It feels like I'm admitting I can't do it on my own. Guess what? We can't do it on our own. We cannot do this life on our own. We are not intended to do it on our own. Okay? There are people that have gone to school to learn all the things to be able to help us figure out how to do some things. Okay? So don't be afraid. And it doesn't mean you have to be in it from sun up to sundown till the day you die. Like I said, for me, it has come in ebbs and flows. But I always know at any given moment, I can make an appointment. I'm in her office and we are good to go. I know that. I know it's so hard when you live a life of therapy and you see the benefits of therapy to not walk around and be like, you need to be in therapy. I promise you, it will be, it is so healing just to be able to sit down with someone with an outside perspective, with some knowledge on how to handle some of the things I'm about to throw your way, and help me wade through some of this business and unpack those suitcases like I've talked about before, and assign those pieces of clothing where they need to go. Sometimes we need help doing that. So how do we flip the script? How do we, because it's going to take each of us making concerted steps to helping break some of this stigma. So what are some ways we can do that? There's a ton. Everybody can do it in all their own way. How have I been doing it? So I openly talk about mental health, mental illness, openly. To anyone who will listen. Clearly, if you guys are listening, you've heard it all along, but I'm open to talking about it to anyone, with anyone, listening to people who want to. I'm a part of Celebrate Recovery Group, local Celebrate Recovery Group, sharing my story, hearing other stories, meeting with some women for coffee to hear their stories and their struggles. Okay, that's one huge way we can talk about it. Quit keeping hiding it under the bushel. No, let's talk about it. Let's be open about it and let others know who may be struggling with being open about it. That if I'm open about it, I have a girlfriend that calls it giving the gift of going second. I'll talk about mine and be vulnerable. So hopefully you can hear that it's okay. It's okay. This is a safe space to talk. Okay. Educate. I don't think we can ever get enough education on all the things anyway, but as far as mental health, mental illness is concerned, my children are in an ever evolving process with their mental illnesses. And tracking toward, being as healthy as we can in those. So new things come. We can't be stagnant in, this is what we learned when we got out of the hospital. These were our triggers and these are the things that we'll do. It has evolved greatly in the past 2 years with her, as finding things that work and things that used to work don't work anymore. And just the education and learning, more about how the brain works and some of the things that we can do to help offset some of these. Okay. So educating ourselves, not thinking we know it all. I sure don't. So educate. Giving people some grace. Giving people grace and space to not be okay. That was probably, full disclosure, one of the hardest things for me. I felt like in the beginning, okay, she's in the hospital for a week. She's out now. Things should be better. No, there was a whole lot that still had to go on. when my son dips deep, I just want to be like, oh my gosh, just listen to me. I've got to give him some grace. Give him some grace and space to not be okay. It's the cliche catchphrase that goes along with it, but it's so true. It is okay to not be okay. Is okay. So learning to give each other grace. Don't assume. That's been one of the hardest things for me to learn, is to not assume I understand what they're dealing with, what the issue is. I can't assume why they're sad today. Is don't assume. Don't assume. Another one is be willing to stand up. Okay, so we talked about being willing to openly talk about mental health, mental illness, but being willing to stand up when wrong assumptions are made, wrong statements are made, asinine statements are made, like being willing to stand up for those who don't have it in them at this time to stand up for themselves. Or they're just in the room and being quiet. Stand up. Be willing to stand up. And give, this is the biggest for me. I had to learn to give those in my life walking the road of mental illness, I had to give them room in my life. Okay, now that's not for everybody. I'm not giving everybody that struggles with mental health, mental illness room in my life. But those that are close to me, I have to give them that space to enter in past my boundaries and give them room to breathe and be themselves in my life. Give them that room, give them that grace, give them that freedom to just be. And sometimes just to sit beside them. Like, I can't tell you how many times my kids may not be able to articulate what it is that's going on. And me as the mama, I'm just trying to fix it. Well, guess what? I can't just fix it. And they have both told me on many occasions, you know what? Just hug me. Just sit here and hug me. All right then. Snuggle up. Let's go. So that's my biggest areas that I've learned from that I think have helped. I think there's a ton more. Clearly there's a ton more. Everybody has their own experiences with it, either positive or negative, but I think we could all come up with a list just like I came up with. But the bottom line is, here's the bottom line. We are not gonna break the stigma around mental health, mental illness until we all do our own part. Like, we all have to do our own part. We have to, and then it all can come together and begin to really break down those walls. We have to. We have to. It has to stop. So, okay. Next week is going to be a little bit different. So I'll post the video next week, but it's gonna be, I'm gonna do a Facebook Live a couple of days before, answering all of the questions that I've gotten throughout these episodes so far. So episode 20 will actually be answering your questions. So I've gotten some a little bit along the way, and then I had posted something on Facebook saying, you know, hey, I'm gonna have a question and answer session, a Facebook Live. What are your questions? Let me know what your questions are, and I'll answer them live. I've gotten a couple back. If you have some, now that you're watching this, if you have some that you want added to the pot, let me know, because I think I will probably do it on either a Saturday or Sunday. I'm not exactly sure yet. But then we will post it to YouTube, repost it to YouTube on Tuesday as episode 20. So that's what next week's gonna look like. It's a little bit different, but I will see you then, and I hope you have a good week.